Can I just say before I get into things, I really, really appreciate you guys. Like, I know I say it a lot, but I never want to take it for granted. I never want to take this for granted. Yesterday was a little bit tougher of a day, and just kind of sitting back, reflecting a little bit. You guys, you make me feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and I don't know how to convey it to you outside of just saying thank you and occasionally giving stuff away and just interact, like all the subs, all the comments, all the likes. Even if you don't do any of those things, just watching the video, it just means so much to me. So thank you for everything. Thank you so much. It's been an incredible journey. Obviously, it's not stopping. We're going to continue, but I just want to say thank you again for everything. We have a fun video planned today going over alternate arts, but not alternate arts really that we've talked about a ton. We're going to talk about the Sun and Moon era alternate arts because those bad boys are just absolutely exploding. But before we get into that, since we passed 90,000 subscribers, I told you guys last week that we were going to give away this booster box of Evolving Skies. So congratulations to Red Sonia or Red Sonia 132. You are the winner of the brand new Evolving Skies booster box. I just need you to send me your mailing information. You can either message me on Instagram at danny.phantump. You can find me on Twitter at danny__o, or just send me an email, dannyphantumpcontent@gmail.com. I told you guys I was going to give away something every 1,000 subscribers until we get to our massive 100K giveaway. And since we're covering Sun and Moon alternate arts today, I figured it would be fitting to give away this booster box. This is Unified Minds. There could be an alternate art in this booster box. A little bit expensive, a little bit harder to find right now. Unified Minds are a lot of fun to open. The Mewtwo and Mew GX, very, very cool. A lot of cool cards in Unified Minds. And this booster box is going to be one of yours. Here's how you enter. Number 1, leave a comment down below. Number 2, that's it. That's all you have to do. Just leave a comment. Don't worry about liking or subscribing. You can do those things if you like the content, but it's not required. Come back next Friday. Next Friday, we are going to announce the winner of the Unified Minds booster box. Just leave a comment. That way the random comment picker can do its thing. And with that, we're going to jump into today and talk about Sun and Moon alternate arts because they have been going through some massive growth over the past year. And honestly, I think some of them are really just getting started. When you start looking at print runs and you start considering print runs for some of these cards, the alternate arts that they produce at the end of the Sun and Moon block, very, very beautiful cards. Then obviously they stopped with Sword and Shield, Rebel Clash, and then the reintroduction of alternate arts when Battle Styles hit. However, because supply was so much higher during the Sword and Shield block than it was during the Sun and Moon, there is a lot of excess cards, a lot of additional alternate arts that probably have been printed, which make them maybe slightly less investable, if you want to call it investable, than what Sun and Moon were. Maybe a little bit less in availability, a little bit less supply that would go into it. Now, there are some really cool Sun and Moon alternate arts. There's not a ton of them. There's only about 15 or so. We're going to go through them all. We're going to start out with the Latias and Latios here, which is probably the fan favorite when it comes to alternate arts, and why not? It is an absolute beautiful card, forming the heart symbol there. Really, really cool looking. You can see in February of 2022, so if we rewind time about a year, this card was still relatively expensive. It was sitting at $220. But look at the growth that it has experienced over the past year, almost doubling in price, and it was really a consistent trajectory upwards up until about September, and then it saw kind of a peak growth performance throughout the month of September, leveled off a little bit in October, then jumped more in December, and then a little bit slower growth in December. So $410.87 is the current market price for this bad boy. That's actually a one-year high, way above, almost twice the price of its one-year low of $222.63, which it hit in February of 2022. Just continues to climb. Beautiful, beautiful card. The second most expensive one right now is the Magikarp and Wailord. For a long time, it was the Arceus and Dialga and Palkia GX. It has since been replaced by the Magikarp and Wailord, which is also very, very cool artwork. There's some really cool clips on Magikarp and Wailord GX in the competitive field where it does Towering Splash GX, which is a whole lot of fun if you can manage to get it off in competitive play for a long time last year. It was super consistent up until September, and that's where we kind of had some issues with alternate arts really starting to explode in price, not just the Sun and Moon era ones, but also the Sword and Shield block as well, where they really started getting bought out and they were just blowing up in price. Very consistent throughout the majority of 2022 up until September. You can see its 1 year low in April of 62.37, and then just blew up, just exploded completely in September. It's been rising ever since, sitting at a 1 year high currently of 149.47. Gengar and Mimikyu also doing extremely well. This is from the team up set. This is a beautiful card as well. This takes the spot of the third most expensive alternate art in the Sun and Moon block. So this also passed up that Arceus and Dialga and Palkia GX. You can see consistent growth throughout the beginning of 2022 up until September. Then we saw that peak like what we saw with a lot of these other alternate arts, but it did have consistent growth up until that point. Its low point of $65.60 it hit in January of 2022 before slowly starting to climb a little bit. And then in December, November really started to take off even more. It hit a price point of $140.170, which is where it's currently at now, and that is a 1 year high for that beautiful Gengar and Mimikyu. Here is the Arceus and Dialga and Palkia GX. A really cool card, did really well in competitive play. Not a whole lot of people probably use the alternate art because they kind of just used minimal rarity when it comes to competitive play so they don't damage the cards, but definitely continued some growth pattern. You can see for the first half of 2022, relatively consistent, stayed around that $80, $90 mark for the first half of 2022, and then really around August you can see some growth starting to happen when it comes to this card. At the beginning of 2022 it was hovering right around $81.55. That was the 1 year low for it, and then consistently throughout the year just continued to gain up until midsummer when it really started to take off more. It's sitting at a 1 year high currently of $113.72 and continuing to climb. The Gardevoir and Sylveon GX has really taken off over the past year. You can see it's over doubled in price over the past year, which is really good, really strong returns on this. In January of 2022 it did hit a low point of 51.81, stayed there for the first few months of 2022 with very small gains, and then in April started taking off a little bit more, so a little sooner than what we saw from these previous alternate arts that we just covered, up until July where it kind of leveled off a little bit, dipped a little bit in September when a lot of these other ones started taking off, and then started taking off a lot more in October, November, and December. You can see it hit a 1 year high of 105.62, and that is where it is standing right now. The Mega Sableye and Tyranitar GX, this is actually probably my favorite one. I love the artwork. I really like Sableye as a Pokemon. I also really like Tyranitar as a Pokemon, so combining them together makes perfect sense. And you can see Sableye just sitting there with all the jewels. It looks absolutely beautiful with like a distortion world feel to it. I absolutely love it. At the beginning of 2022, it was sitting right around $30.77. Now that almost seems criminal right now when you're talking about alternate arts in modern Pokemon. A modern Pokemon card that is an alternate art for $30.77. That you're looking at like the Galarian Persiker, you're looking at like the Skuntank from Silver Tempest, but you wouldn't think Mega Sableye and Tyranitar. But that's what it was selling for in January of 2022. Took off a little bit in April, leveled off pretty much all the way up until November before it started shooting up a lot more. You can see it's sitting at 73.58 currently. That is a 1 year high for Mega Sableye and Tyranitar. The Blastoise and Piplup, a little bit different of a pattern. We covered this one about 6 months ago as it was turning down. You can see it has righted the ship. It is definitely taking off a lot more. In January of 2022, it was at a 1 year low of $35.34. It jumped up to about $55 in April, May, before coming back down. You can see in September, it actually dropped all the way down to $40. It was getting closer to that 1 year low mark, but now it has since then almost doubled in price, sitting at $60.14 currently, definitely heading in the upward direction. The Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX, I also really enjoy this one. I have multiple graded copies. I don't grade a lot of cards, but the ones that I really cherish are the ones that I grade, like this Raichu and Alolan Raichu, because I love the look of it. In January of 2022, it was down to $33.80. That's a 1 year low for this. And then really consistent organic growth pretty much throughout the entirety of 2022. You can see not a whole lot of levels when it comes to this specific card. A little bit in May, June, and then a little bit in September, October, but for the most part, just consistent growth all the way up to $58.48. Where it is standing right now currently. Then we've got Slowpoke and Psyduck GX. This one has really done a really good job over the past several months here. You can see in January of 2022, it was at a 1 year low of $23.46. Saw a little bit of growth up until April, then leveled off a little bit until July, and then started taking off even more, sitting at $49.16 currently. That's a 1 year high. We just keep saying the same thing over and over again. A 1 year high, 1 year high, 1 year high for the Slowpoke and Psyduck. The next one up is the Greninja and Zoroark. Zoroark just looks so comfy, just chilling there right on that tree with Greninja just kind of hanging out with it. You can see this one actually hit a 1 year low in March of 2022. It dipped down to $25.93 before kind of ballooning a little bit, gained about $10 right there, almost up to $35. Then consistent growth pretty much throughout 2022. You can see jumping all the way up to $48.46. That's a one-year high for Greninja and Zoroark, and that's where it's sitting currently. Then we've got the Rowlet and Alolan Executor. I really love this card. Looking at some of these price points, still not too bad when it comes to some of these cards. You can see Rowlet and Alolan Executor sitting at $41.82 currently. This one is from Unified Minds, so it could be in that Unified Minds box. That's a one-year high for this. It's kind of hovered around that point for the last few weeks now, but you can see way higher that it's $16.14 one-year low, so over double the price when it comes to this bad boy. You're looking at almost 150% higher that it hit in February, March of 2022. Then we've got the Naganadel and Guzzlord GX. This one doesn't get a whole lot of traction. Probably not the favorite for a lot of people, but still a very cool looking card. You can see January, February, March, it stayed relatively level, right around that $15.91 point. That was its one-year low before starting to see a little bit of gains, and it stayed right around that $20 mark pretty much all the way up until October. Then it started taking off, doubled in price over the next few months, and you can see it sitting at $32.80 currently. That's a one-year high for Naganadel and Guzzlord. Then we've got the Pheromosa and Buzzwole. Looks really cool with the sky kind of hanging out behind it. Really consistent throughout the majority of 2022. And then it actually started seeing its increase in August of 2022, which is a different month than what we saw from some of these other ones. That's when it really started skyrocketing. You can see hit a $10.39 one-year low, and then just really took off, almost tripled in price now. You're sitting at $32.70 for Pheromosa and Buzzwole. That is also a one-year high for this card. Then we've got the Marshadow and Machamp GX. I think we have one more after this one. This one saw some decent organic consistent growth throughout the first half of 2022. You can see it $18.30 one-year low. It hit in January of 2022. Gained a little bit, all the way up until October, and then started shooting up quite a bit more. $46.76 is where it's currently sitting. That's a one-year high for that one. And then the last one that we're going to look at is the Muck and Alolan Muck. This one is from Unbroken Bonds. I really like this one because of the Alolan Muck hanging out in the sewer there. It looks super cool, relatively inexpensive, but a really cool piece to add to your collection if you're still looking for some of these alternate arts from the Sun and Moon block. Not too bad of a price point, sitting right around like what we talked about, that Skunk Tank V from Silver Tempest, but this one just really pops to me. You can see it's one-year low. It hit in March of 2022. That was at $10.92. Very consistent growth pretty much throughout 2022, almost doubling in price, sitting at $19.89 currently. That's a one-year high for this one. So the big thing to take away is all of these cards really going through one-year highs currently. They continue to trend in the upward direction. If you didn't get on some of these last year, definitely start looking around, seeing if you can find some in decent price points. It wouldn't surprise me if some of these continue to climb a little bit more and more as people look at filling up some of their past binders, especially when it comes to the Sun and Moon block as we move forward into Scarlet and Violet. Alternate arts are kind of changing over to what they're doing with art rares and special art rares and things like that. So we'll see if they continue doing alternate arts in the future. But availability on some of these, because supply is going to be much lesser than what we saw with some of these Sword and Shield sets, because there have been so many more printings of some of these Sword and Shield sets, so they're not going to be as plentiful as what we saw from the Sun and Moon Black. I hope you enjoy the content. If you do, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like and a comment. You got to leave a comment just to be entered to win the Unified Minds box, but it does go a long way for the algorithm. If you don't like the content, don't do any of those things, but still leave a comment so that way you can enter to win the Unified Minds box. Thank you guys so much again for everything. I know I said it at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to say it again now. I really appreciate you guys. You mean a lot to me. So thank you so much. You do more than you know. Thank you for everything, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Until then, peace.